It raises the question, how long can you opiate the people? I mean, ultimately, the French Revolution showed that people will break out in extremely ugly ways, and if they're not careful, land themselves in an even greater mess. Um, as I look at America, and I think of its very proud tradition of um, individualism, of people accepting their responsibilities, of working hard, the so-called Protestant work ethic, all of the things that were talked about so long ago. Surely that's latent to some degree. Please tell me it is. People like you, and I know Jordan Peterson, other media outlets like the Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro, they've got audiences now in the tens of millions of America, around America, and indeed around the world. The National Review recently reported that millions of parents across the country are fighting back against the spread of critical race theory, and that's had political implications in America by protesting its presence in their schools. At least you've got a culture war. Sometimes in Australia it seems to be impossible to move anyone. But the point really is, do you think this can change anything? I know Jordan Peterson, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but in a recent conversation he said to me, this is where you will change opinions now. You won't be able to do it through the mainstream media. They won't concentrate well enough. They're too interested in conflict. They're too lacking in professionalism. It's only a very few high quality journals left that explore ideas. But you go online, the very thing we're doing here. I mean, I'm unashamedly trying to inject a higher quality of reason and debate into the public arena because I don't think you can get good public policy without it. But I guess the question is, how optimistic are you that in view of everything that's happening, I mean, I mentioned that Australians have got a surprising handle on where the real dangers. They understand how dangerous Ukraine is, even though it's so far away. They understand that China's an even greater danger, which shows you that the elites haven't been totally successful in hoodwinking the people. How do you see it in America unfolding? Are you optimistic that perhaps there can be a turnaround?
I've been more optimistic than I ever have been the last 5 years, and for a variety of indicators. I've never seen the left so paranoid. They tried to destroy who's not really conservative. He's a empiricist, moderate Joe Rogan. He's got a larger audience than all the network news combined. And for one word or inarticulate expression, they misrepresent him. They try to destroy him. They tried to destroy Jordan Peterson. They are so paranoid that they censor Facebook, Twitter. They looked at what happened with the Canadian truckers here and they stopped GoFundMe. In other words, they think to themselves, we own all the institutions of communication and influence. Wall Street media, Silicon Valley, K through 12 academia, the foundation, sports, entertainment, and yet these stupid people are still not with us. And they look at this midterm, and if you look at some of the polls, there's an old truism in American politics that the Republicans on a generic question can get within -5 when a person answers. Who will you vote on the ticket, the person with a Republican or a Democratic affiliation? If they say Republican, but they're only 5 down, then the Republicans usually win because they have greater organization and turnout. And right now, it ranges from anywhere from +7 all the way up to +12, depending on the poll. So you've got record anger. The Republican Party is making inroads in minorities here in the San Joaquin Valley of California. I've never seen anything like it. And talking to Mexican Americans, second generation Americans, they sound like they're a mixture of Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan. They don't want anybody telling them that they have to pay for transgendered operations. They don't believe in abortion on demand. They do not want people coming across the border into their communities that have criminal records. They don't understand why they have to pay $5 a gallon for a San Francisco pie in the sky dream of some wealthy person. So, and then we look at the midterms. And unlike 2010 or 1994, where the Republicans made enormous gains in a first-term presidency, they started way down, John. The House is almost even. So when they talk about 30 or 40 seats, that's not winning, that's like winning 70 when you're 30 down. And if you lose 4, and the Senate's already even, they lose 4 or 5 seats, and essentially within months, this progressive agenda will stop, and it will have to hinge on either a court-ordered agenda by a liberal judge or an executive order by Joe Biden. And unlike Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, who had enormous charismatic influence and abilities, they were very articulate, they were young, they were dynamic, and they had unpopular agendas. But by the sheer weight of the personas, they were able to push these agendas through. Joe Biden is a very old and infirm 79, and he was never eloquent, and he was always petulant, and those traits unfortunately have been accentuated. So I don't see a good future for them. I look around the party and I say Nancy Pelosi is 81, James Clyburn, the majority whip, is 82, I think. Chuck Schumer is 74. They don't have a lot of youthful energetic leadership. And when you talk about a Ben Shapiro or Joe Rogan or any of these grassroots people, it's very funny. They don't reference their BAs, PhDs, MAs, journalism degrees, even though many of them are highly educated. Their appeal is their performance, whereas the left, of all ideologies, they are the most antiquated, and they hire and they reference by the school they went to, their certification. I work for the New York Times. I have a PhD in journalism from Columbia, this kind of stuff. So they're ossified, they're calcified, and the real dynamic fluidity, podcast, videos, talk radio, it's kind of it thrives because it's sort of like in the arena, thumbs up and thumbs down, and the popular audience reacts to it. And I grew up with this idea that all these 60s people were, they're marching on the Pentagon, marching on the Capitol, marching on the TV station. Well, now they're all in those places. And their idea of a revolution is become a kind of a Stalinist, bloated apparatchik on the May Day dais as you watch the missiles on May Day parade. And they're like the Soviets. They're old, they're tired, they're intolerant, they're paranoid. That's the left, I think, in the West. And the energy now is with the right. Part of it's because youth are always rebellious against the orthodoxy, but part of it is that they're very afraid of what the left wants for them. The left does not believe in civil liberties anymore. In fact, it believes in the opposite. It believes in the powers of the FBI, the CIA, the NSA to spy, to surveil, to use powers of government for superior moral means, they feel. They want the tools so they can enact a superior moral vision for us. So I think I'm very optimistic. I have never seen anything, and I speak to you as I know that I've come on before, John, and been a little bit pessimistic, but things are rapidly changing here. And Ukraine is sort of a wake-up call on a lot of fronts here in the United States. I was listening to a senator today who has voted against every energy and initiative, and he was asked on the radio deliberately, "Are you going to support fracking? And he said, I've always supported fracking. Why are you doing this to me?" I mean, he just blatantly lied because he felt that to reveal his true intentions was a suicide pact in November.